Jeffco is a warning to school districts across Colorado. First, you'll boom with new students, then you bust. A second prominent woman wants to be the first to lead Denver. The big music festival that gave the finger to one community,
What the hell, Jim?
is about to start the party in a new place. Your question about the puffy helmets we're seeing the Broncos wear. And it's the countdown to a historic launch and your long weekend, so long as nothing weird happens.
Are you interested in going to the moon?
Only if I get to bring my chicken with me.
That's weird. Of course it is, because this is next. As Jeffco Schools prepares to close buildings for lack of students, other districts are seeing a surge in enrollments, and they know that they could be where Jeffco is in the future. So how do you even plan for something like that, to both avoid crowding school classrooms now and breaking families' hearts with school closures later? Our Anusha Roy asked around.
It's a feeling.
Hard on communities. I know it's hard on neighborhoods.
27J Superintendent Chris Fiddler shares when he thinks about families in Jeffco and the families in his own district.
I believe strongly that 27J Schools is where Jeffco was probably 30 or 40 years ago.
The district covers Brighton, Thornton, and Commerce City and is seeing 500 to 1,000 new students a year and could reach 50,000 over the next 15 to 20 years.
A common misperception that, the growth should fund itself in terms of new students, and it's true in that we get an additional amount per student. For us, it's about $9,200 a student from the State Finance Act.
But it's not the whole story.
We are operating on about 80% of the revenue that everyone else is.
Voters did approve a bond which helps them build out space for students, but the district has also seen failed mill levy overrides. This is a challenge for 27J. They tend to ask for higher tax increases, in part because property values in this district are not as high as other metro areas.
We're really at a competitive disadvantage in terms of pay.
But it has not stopped people with their young kids from moving in.
I say they're affordable, but that sounds funny, but comparatively, it's a much more affordable place for young families to buy their home.
School district has not built a neighborhood school since 2010.
In Douglas County, what is being built are massive neighborhoods.
We went from kind of this lull to houses popping up like crazy.
Which is why voters will be asked if they want to help pay for 3 new elementary schools and expand 2 middle schools.
The rate that these houses are going up, 3 years from now, we have schools that will be at 150, 160% capacity.
At the same time, though, Jeffco is so big, it is experiencing both ends of the problem.
But the declining enrollment areas are, I can't pick up an elementary school and move it 20 miles south.
And while districts are planning for the now, they know these neighborhoods will grow up and will be faced with similar tough decisions.
Long way down the road.
So when you look at the state data, the state population is predicted to keep growing. But if you look specifically 0 to 17 years old, it doesn't actually increase significantly. The state says birth rates are actually down. That school-age population reached its peak in Colorado in 2018. So you are going to see that kid population kind of grow and then slow down in certain neighborhoods. But that's matching what the districts are saying, that they know that some of these areas you're just going to grow up and all of a sudden you won't have as many kids going to school there.
So in the moment of the crunch, what are they doing with the students?
Right, and you have to deal with it, right? It's about the immediate and then planning for the long term. Both the districts we talked to have been turned down before by voters for that financial help. Yeah. So both are dealing with overcrowding. Some of them are getting on buses, going to schools that are further away. Those classrooms also crowded. You're starting to see portables go up at some of these schools as well, which is not ideal, but they're just trying to find space for them.
Sure, until voters decide whether they want to build or not. All right, Anusha, thank you. There has been a change to the Elijah McLean autopsy report. Important because the coroner initially did not specify why Elijah McLean died after he was held down by police and given ketamine. We don't know what the new report says because the coroner won't release it, says it's confidential. Colorado Public Radio is leading a lawsuit to make it public, and 9 News is joining the suit. McLean died in Aurora 3 years ago. He was walking in the city when police stopped him. He had done nothing wrong. Police put him in a carotid hold and paramedics injected him with ketamine. An autopsy a week after his death said the cause and manner of his death were undetermined. CPR first reported that the coroner updated the autopsy because of grand jury testimony. New information that led the coroner to change Elijah McLean's death certificate. Change in the autopsy could have big implications for the prosecution of the 3 police officers and the 2 paramedics charged in McLean's death. Not every family displaced by the Marshall Fire is going to go home. Some of the 1,000 homes that burned 8 months ago will be rebuilt for someone new. Our Katie Eastman takes a look at the burned lots that have sold and what's still up for sale.
The desire to buy burned land that looked like this wasn't exactly there back in the winter, just after the Marshall Fire came through. But a lot has changed in 8 months.
Yeah, it's wonderful to see the healing process of the land and of the people that lived on it.
Now that burn debris has been cleared and the soil tested, real estate agent Jennifer East says burn lots are selling.
So they're ready to go. And with that, we're starting to see buyers come in.
And they're going for quite a bit.
We have had a closed lot in this neighborhood at $1.375 million cash.
That's the most a burned lot has sold for. The lowest sale closed at $257,000. East listed this 2¼ acre lot in the Spanish Hills neighborhood for $1.99 million. The owners bought it in 2015 with a home for $935,000.
We have actually had 22 sales of lots that were burned by the Marshall Fire, and we have people starting to break ground on their new homes.
East says there are 14 lots under contract and 57 lots currently on the market.
Most real estate agents here, if you were selling a lot, it would be maybe an old rundown home. We did not have a lot of raw land available, so that wasn't really a common sale here unless you were working with a big new home subdivision.
This land is rare and finally ready to rebuild on. For Next, I'm Katie Eastman.
Boy, Katie put a fine point on it. The land is rare. Just would not expect to find new acreage available in a place like Spanish Hills. There's still a long backlog for people who are seeking one-on-one help from Boulder County's 5 recovery navigators. It's currently a wait of at least 2 weeks before they can expect to hear back from the navigators who are helping people, among other things, access funds that were given to the Community Foundation Boulder County. A second prominent name has entered the race for Denver mayor today. Councilwoman Debbie Ortega got into that race to replace outgoing Mayor Michael Hancock, said it's time for Denver to chart a new course. Ortega has been around for quite a while, although on city council, not as mayor running the show. She served as an at-large city council member since 2011 and spent 28 years total on council. Look for her to point to her experience winning voters as an at-large council person, so she's touched every corner of the city. Ortega is generally viewed as one of the more centrist Democrats on city council. Recently, noteworthy, she voted against renovations at DIA, which fell behind schedule, well over budget. 9 other candidates, mostly unknowns, have filed to replace Mayor Hancock. The other prominent name in now is Kelly Brough, expected to be a favorite of powerful business interests. You can expect well-known names to start announcing as well before long. Starting next week, Coloradans can get a COVID booster that targets the Omicron variant, the more contagious but less serious form of COVID that's going around. CDC gave its approval yesterday. The State Department of Health has ordered 300,000 doses so far, and they tell us they'll keep ordering doses as demand warrants, and they believe that there should be no problem getting enough for anybody who wants to get a booster shot. You can sign up through your doctor's office, health clinics, pharmacies, community vaccination sites. The state says anyone 12 years of age and older who's received their first 2 doses can get this booster so long as you're 2 months past your most recent dose. May I make a recommendation? I'd like to point you to somebody else's journalism as we do around here. It's a long read that I think you'll find interesting. Failure to Launch from NBC News looks at how communities across America are building spaceports that have not yet been used for launches, like the Colorado Air and Spaceport in Watkins, what used to be Front Range Airport. NBC News is looking at whether we are building more of these spaceports than the country really needs right now. And specifically, this article looks at what communities outside Colorado have given up in terms of funding to get a spaceport that's just sitting unused. Find a link to that really interesting article on the next Facebook page or on my Twitter feed. Through this week's Word of Thanks, you are taking kids who have gone on these life-changing trips to the high country, and then you're connecting them with career paths into the outdoors. By doing that, we have a chance to make outdoor recreation in Colorado better reflect everyone who lives in our state. You've raised $13,000 and counting this week for Big City Mountaineers. For decades, that nonprofit has taken kids from underserved communities on expeditions into the wilderness. And now they're adding a leadership program, a more long-term effort to connect those young people to job opportunities with outdoor rec companies, the Forest Service, the Park Service, and such. Scan that QR code on your screen or text the word THANKS to 303-871-1491. You can get in on this week's bit of feel-good goodness. The leadership program is a smart way to make a lasting impact on lives and to prove Colorado's outdoors belong to everyone. A huge music festival heads to a new location in the high country after disrespecting the original host in one of our all-time favorite public meetings.
What the hell, Jim?
It's a sign that it's Palisade Peaches or nothing. And let's count down.
3, 2, 1.
Countdown to the weekend and a historic launch with our favorite Friday tradition.
My good news is that I got straight A's.
That's next. Wolves weren't waiting for the state of Colorado to come up with a formal reintroduction plan. They just kind of strolled down from Wyoming. But the state just wrapped up a significant part of that wolf planning process. For the last 15 months, there have been two groups going around hearing from people who will be most affected by this. Hearing about issues, conflict between wolves and livestock, how to haze wolves, the issue of hunting them, compensating ranchers if wolves kill livestock. The groups will take the feedback and come up with a formal report they'll present to Colorado Parks and Wildlife in November. The advocacy group Wild Earth Guardian says the two state-sanctioned groups doing all this listening have been too secretive and too focused on limiting wolf populations. The group says the state is considering 150 wolves in total. Wild Earth Guardians has proposed 750 wolves scattered around the state. Maybe one at your house.
As a hot start to the holiday weekend, highs returning to the 90s. And get this, we are now in the top 5 for the most number of 90-degree days in a given year. So, of course, 2020, just a couple of years ago, taking the cake, taking that #1 spot with 75 days. But right now we are tied for 5th place at 59 days in the 90s. And more on the way. Officially, we touched 95 out at DIA, triple digits in Pueblo. 90s off to the Eastern Plains, upper 80s in Kremling, up to Steamboat, and 99 this afternoon in Grand Junction. This ridge of high pressure is out there. That's keeping the heat around, but also little moisture cruising in on the edge of that ridge. Most of the action has been across the Eastern Plains, nothing severe, just a little bit of lightning, some gusty winds, and the showers that we have seen up in the mountains quickly starting to push out. As we look ahead toward the rest of this evening, everything out of here, and by early tomorrow morning, you start the day with some sunshine. If you're heading up to the mountains, you're doing some hiking, earlier is better because I will be looking at a few storms up into the mountains by about 3, 4 o'clock. Nothing for the metro area or the Eastern Plains, just the heat. Back to the lower 90s, little cooler. Hey, we'll take it, right? Some 70s and low 80s up in the mountains. 96 for your Labor Day. Whew, and look at next Friday. Hopefully, we'll drop off into the upper 80s.
Football season's here, so tonight's next question is about those puffy helmets we've seen players wearing in practice. Shirley Carnahan wanted to know, are they only for practice? Is this some kind of prototype for the regular season? Interesting question. The NFL required some players to wear them this year, beginning at camp through the second week of preseason games. Just the offensive and defensive linemen, the tight ends, and the linebackers. They're called Guardian caps. I think Super Mario whenever I see them. They're like a soft shell cover that goes over the helmet. They're designed to protect players and their heads and limit the contact they get during practice. The NFL says these Guardian caps can reduce concussions by up to 10% if one player is wearing them, up to 20% if both players involved in a collision have them on. Some colleges have also been using those soft shell helmets in practice. I love your questions because they always make us smarter. I had no idea. I thought I had an idea, but it's good to hear from the source. Send your questions to us on Twitter with the hashtag HeyNext or email us next@9news.com. The Seven Peaks Music Festival is back this weekend in Colorado, just not back in Buena Vista. This year, the Country Music Festival is down in Villa Grove, about 45 miles south of there in the San Luis Valley. If you've watched this show over the years, you may know why the show is not in Chaffee County anymore. If you didn't hear the story, let's play one of our all-time favorite comments from an elected official.
How many tickets have you sold so far?
A little over 6,000, 1,300 local, 1,300 in.
6,000? Are you me? You know we have a 5,000 person event capacity, and you've already sold more tickets than that?
Yes.
What the hell, Jim?
That famously was Chaffee County Commissioner Greg Felt last year, kind of toward the tail end of the pandemic restrictions, which Live Nation just gave Chaffee County the bird over. And the commissioner was pretty PO'd when Live Nation just said that they had gone ahead and sold 6,000 tickets to a festival where they were only allowed 5,000 people. Chaffee County was not willing to lift the capacity restrictions, even if it cost them the business. So Live Nation canceled the festival and relocated it this year.
My good news is my dog turned 1.
We head to an outdoor classroom for a science lesson and your good news. And it's a sign that Colorado is juicier than California. Next. Tomorrow, we will hopefully see Artemis 1 lift off from Florida. First step to putting humans back on the moon and eventually go to Mars. So today was a good chance for some 5th graders at Eastridge Elementary in Aurora to learn about science, space, and gravity. We went to ask our favorite Friday question. What's your good news?
We're going to see how high we can make these things go. 3, 2, 1. My good news is that it's a great day at Eastridge Elementary. We've been talking a lot about the Artemis launch and how important it is, and it's something that they'll see at home. It's something that we learn about in school, and this is just another way to drive that point home.
My good news is probably everybody having fun. My good news is that I got straight A's.
And why is that good news?
I never have gotten straight A's before. I just feel so excited that I got some. And I'm in 5th grade, so I feel like a 6th grader already.
Are you interested in going to the moon?
Only if I get to bring my chicken with me.
I'm sorry, only if you get to bring your chicken?
Yes. My good news is my dog turned 1.
5, 4,
3, 2, 1! We were testing the rockets to see if we could get high enough to touch the moon. My good news is that everyone was happy and nobody ran away off into the field and got lost.
How do you spell NASA?
My good news would be that everybody was having fun today.
Favorite part of the week, every week. Favorite part of the week. Hey, it's a sign that purveyors of fine features want you to have only the finest. You know where those come from. Then your feedback next. It's a sign that if you're moving to the country, going to eat you a lot of peaches, you really want those peaches to be from Colorado if possible. This is the sign at the King Soopers and Highlands Ranch. These are California, not the peaches you're looking for. That was sent in to us by Patrick Mullen, who spotted that. I'm not saying that Palisade peaches could achieve world peace, but, you know, it might be worth a try if we gave one to everybody. It would at least explain the sign that was seen off Church Ranch, Palisade pieces. That's fine. That's fine. Listen, people know what's there. They'll turn off. Credit's okay, too. Craig writes in to say, what was the reason that NBC did not carry the presidential address last night? I couldn't tell you for certain, Craig, because I don't work for NBC. I work for 9 News. We're an affiliate, but they don't mess with our decisions and we don't mess with theirs. My guess is that typically major presidential addresses that are not political in nature are carried. But once we get into campaign season, any speech that is deemed to be political by the network isn't carried. I don't think any of the major networks carried the speech last night. I listened to it. There was a mix of stuff that wasn't political, like Save American Democracy, and then there was stuff in there that was political in terms of the president's policy priorities. But if you want a better answer, shoot a note to NBC. Maybe they got a feedback segment too. See you next time.